for History Channel in August last year. I even get rubbished by Dr. Long, the Dinosaur Authority, but
John Long.
yeah, John Long, but the giant. It's a documentary about the giant monitor lizard, which is supposed to be extinct. I say no, and he rubbishes a footprint that I made cast of on this farm down at Maruya in 1979. And trouble is, John Long wasn't there, and he didn't see all the tracks going across the paddock. And it was he says, "Oh, I have to be fake." It has to be because it's not in the textbook, you see. So that's how they work. If something's not in the textbook, if you catch them by surprise with something, they immediately use their authority, their degrees, and everything to dismiss something as a fake or whatever, just to tell you, just to make out they know something, I guess. But I've had a lot of trouble with John Long, not as much as I've had with Dr. Ritchie. Ritchie has a 37-year-old vendetta against me because I refused to surrender a little Stegosaurus skull that was given me by a farmer friend from Clarence that he found on his property in 1971. And I wrote to Dr. Ritchie, who I'd never had any contact before, when he was curator of fossils at the Australian Museum. And he just sent me a nice letter, didn't answer any of my questions about Stegosaurus or anything. He just said, bring your fossil down here, it will make a wonderful addition to our department's collection. Yeah. I wrote a nice letter back and said, unfortunately I've got a museum and I want to keep it for me, but you're welcome to a cast or whatever. That wasn't good enough. He sent me an insulting letter after that saying, you're only an amateur, you've got no right to find these things. Well, for once I didn't find it, but I do find a lot of things that he doesn't like. So he said, I'll make sure you can never, that's right, it's no use to you, you're only an amateur, you'll never be recognised, your discoveries will mean nothing to scientists, and he said if you try to publish it, I'll block you. He was good as his word. He spent a lot of your taxpayers' money ringing up editors all over the country, don't accept articles from Rex Gilroy. That's what they're like. Now he's working at Macquarie University, and when I found the 7-million-year-old endo cast of a primate type skull down at Bega, in dated University of Canberra dated stratas, mind you, he even lied about the age of the volcanic eruptions down there, which ceased some 7 million years ago, and this specimen was buried under 7 million years of strata. And it had been worn to the surface by heavy rains over a period. In fact, it was the first of 5 skulls. I thought it was a little creature about this big, but then we found a large one about that big, so it was obviously a juvenile. It's the internal cast of a skull where volcanic mud and ash had penetrated inside the cranium and mineralised. And anyway, he got 25 minutes of air time on the ABC to denounce me and rubbish the discovery. No man evolved in Africa. He's fighting to save the out of Africa theory, which is dying. And he said, don't take any notice of Mr. Gilroy. He has no degrees, you know, and I've got all these other degrees, and they love to recite them like the alphabet. But that was something. I mean, they must have something to hide if they go to such lengths to try and discredit you Australia-wide live. And but after that, I got a lot of interest from people. That's the funny part about it. Every time I get attacked by Dr. Ritchie, I get interviews by journalists who don't agree with him. So roll on Ritchie. But he's getting a bit old, and I believe he's very ill at the moment. It passeth a noble opponent. He's giving it up. But this is it. I'm in the field all the time, and these people are behind a desk. And 2 different people, so-called authorities with the degrees that don't think it's necessary to do any field work, and people like me that don't have the benefit of university degrees or a government job, and we're in the field all the time making discoveries that these people say don't exist. As Greg would tell you, but we find a lot of things that supposedly don't exist. Our latest is a Celtic village on the Hawkesbury, about 3,000 years old, all part of that Egypto-Phoenician colony at Gosford, which the hieroglyphs involve. So we're making discoveries all the time, and I arranged for a sky watch recently with his friends down in Sydney that come to our meetings normally, but one was Kim Tracton. She came up with her husband last night in a four-wheel drive. Could have made better use of that four-wheel drive if it had been daylight, but she picked Heather and I up, and William Johnson, and we went out to the end of King's Tableland Road to McMahon's Lookout, which overlooks the Burragorang, and although it's about 20 kilometres that way, you can see two gullies like that. Now this one here has the original underground base openings when they opened to receive craft or let them fly out, and the other one is a newer complex, and that's on the other side of the valley, or did they only recently start to put openings in it? I don't know, because that base goes right through to Wallandilly.
How old is the base, Rex?
Up here to the Wallamai, and you've got all these separate complexes, and they're all linked by underground tunnels.
How old is it? How old is it?
The earliest account is 1938, when the Australian Army figured the Japanese were going to attack Australia at some stage, and they set up underground communications bases and some surface ones around Australia. And this one was serviced by a road which is still in existence, but on a property and camouflaged anyway. And you've got to read those. I've got two books on American underground bases and how it's easy to camouflage and how you can hide the entrances under skyscrapers, anything, on lonely farms and factories, trucks going in and out of factories carrying junk. Nobody takes any notice, but you go in there and they go underground, and they've got tunnelling in all directions. But at the end of the Second World War, it really got underway. But in 1938, we had this communication base 2 stories deep out the far end of the Burragorang. And at one stage, General MacArthur spent 6 months on and off here at the Hydro Majestic, which was used as a military hospital, which was a front. And at one stage, he made a visit to this base. Well, when he got back to America, I'd say he must have mentioned it, because after the war, when the Cold War started, the Yanks started building atomic bomb technology all over the place, and they wanted underground bases for this, and they moved in, and they started setting them up all over the place, Lonely Islands, South America, Canada, everywhere, with the collusion of the various governments. And when it came to Australia, the Chifley government said, okay, it'll be a joint program, but as usual, it's mostly American, and they're the ones that are pouring the money in. So by 1965, the building of nuclear weapons suddenly fades away, and we find that they suddenly turn to an advanced space technology. And where'd they get it from? Because they've been working on it for years, and also what we call time window technology. So they're the 2 chief things that are being used or developed in these bases. But there's other bases for other purposes. People are actually living underground now, underground cities, and there's people there probably being born down there, haven't seen the light of day, but they're living underground in daylight lighting and everything. They're just like a town. Oh, they're down and they're living underground just like we live up top here. But are they thinking of some other disaster, perhaps like an asteroid that might or might not hit Earth in some years' time? And it would be a good place to hide, provided you're not in the path of where it's going to hit, if it does hit. But we've got about 30 years, they say, to think about it. But in any case, these things all over the world, but what interests me is what's going on in Australia, and there will be another book on it, because I've got that much information. And there's all sorts of strange things happening out in the Burra Green, and out on this lookout